In this parcel from China is a very interesting device from a company called PeakDo. They specialize in somewhat unique technology, and that is wirelessly transferring HDMI signal. They've been around for quite a while, they have different devices around the same idea, and this is their latest device, which is called PeakDo Millimeter Wave Handheld version 3 Pro. Here are the specifications, I will talk about them later, but first, let's check out what's in the box. Since there is a screen, it already comes with a screen protector, which is a tempered glass, and the typical kit you need to install it. There is also a box of wires. There are 3 cables here, mini HDMI to HDMI, Type-C to Type-C, and USB-A to USB Type-C. The length of all of the cables is approximately 1 meter each, and the quality is very good. And here is the main show, the HDMI transmitter and an HDMI receiver in the form of a 7-inch screen with its own built-in rechargeable battery. The transmitter though doesn't have its own battery, and you're supposed to power it up from a USB source with the supplied cable. The transmitter case is made of metal. It has those ribs, which act both as reinforcements and also as heat dissipators. There is a single HDMI connector, which is HDMI in, a Type-C connector, where you plug in your USB for power, and one more thing, which I will show you later, and also there is an opening protected by a semi-transparent plastic glass, and if you shine a light into it, there is an array of something. This is actually a transmitting antenna. The receiver, which is essentially a 7-inch screen, also in metal casing, has similar openings on the back of the casing where the receiving antenna is placed. There is also a cooling fan, and the exhaust of the fan goes upwards through a copper heatsink. Here you can also see several buttons, which I use to control the device, including turning it on and off, navigating the on-screen menu, and also lowering or increasing the volume. There is a 3mm headphone out, a LED indicator, the heatsink exhaust, and also 3 ports. One of them is power delivery, which is basically a charger. It is used to charge the internal battery and also to power the device from a USB adapter. Quick charge of up to 30 watts is supported. Next to PD port, there is another USB Type-C port, which is used as a video input to this device. And this is the only thing it can do. It can only be used to accept video signal and nothing else. And the last connector here is HDMI port, which is a mini HDMI port, and you can use the supplied cable to connect this display to an HDMI source. On the lower side of the screen, you have 2 stereo speakers, and on the left and the right side, there is a special rails. PeakDo also supplies controllers for this screen, and if you invest in them, you can attach them to the screen, and the entire thing will become similar to PlayStation Portal, which is kinda similar idea, or Logitech G Cloud, which is also kinda similar idea. But more on that later. The only thing worth mentioning here is that the controllers use this screen just to physically attach to it. There is no connection going on, and the controllers communicate with your gaming console or PC using Bluetooth. However, PeakDo also sells special adapters for consoles, a different one for PlayStation and a different one for Xbox, and if you invest in those adapters, the PeakDo controllers will act as a native PlayStation or Xbox gamepad. They will still be wireless, but much better latency-wise than Bluetooth. The only thing I can tell about the case is that it is made of painted black metal, and all your greasy fingerprints are very visible on this type of surface, so you would want to clean it from time to time. PeakDo has several flavors of the same version 3 model. There is just version 3, there is Pro version, and there is SE version. They are very similar, all of them have 7-inch display, all of them have 6000 amps batteries, and things like that. However, there are 2 main things you have to keep in mind. The first one is the refresh rate. This Pro version is capable of 120 Hz refresh rate. All of the screens used are IPS. They have slight differences in maximum brightness. However, the biggest difference is the screen orientation. This particular model has a native landscape orientation. However, if you take PeakDo V3 SE, the orientation of the screen is natively portrait. That's how you use your phone or a tablet. However, since most games on consoles and PC use landscape orientation, the device will have to rotate the image from portrait to landscape, and that adds latency, sometimes up to 2 frames of latency. So you should keep this in mind. However, this particular device is 120 Hz natively landscape screen. Connecting this device to your computer, console, laptop, handheld gaming device, media player, or any other device with an HDMI or Type-C output is very simple. If you plan to use it in wired mode and your output device has a Type-C connection, you just connect it with a single Type-C connector. If your device has an HDMI out, you connect it to the HDMI port. In this particular case, there is no HDMI out on this device, so I had to use a Type-C to HDMI adapter to run this thing. Since the screen has its own battery, it will run on its own power for a while, and you don't have to worry about power until the battery charge runs out. When connected using a cable, an HDMI one or Type-C one, the display is capable of native 120 Hz refresh rate. By the way, if when trying to connect it wirelessly, you get no image, that means that the wireless mode has been probably turned off in the display menu. That usually happens when you try to use the display in the wired mode, probably to save power. So you have to go to the on-screen menu and turn on the millimeter wave technology. If you plan to connect it wirelessly, you have to plug the supplied transmitter into HDMI out and also use the Type-C to supply power to the transmitter. If your output device doesn't have an HDMI out but is capable of sending video through a Type-C connection, you will need to use a Type-C to HDMI adapter to connect the transmitter. And don't forget to plug in power to the transmitter. That can be any USB power source, a wall plug, a computer port, or a power bank, for example. However, if you are using a computer, you would want to connect the Type-C port on the transmitter to a USB port on the computer. The reason for this is that the remote screen is actually a touch screen, and it is capable of detecting 5 simultaneous presses. And when you connect the transmitter to a USB port of your computer, the transmitter is detected as a touch screen. That means you can use your fingers on the remote screen to control your computer using a touch screen. Obviously, this only works with a PC. If you connect this to a gaming console which doesn't support a touch input, for example an Xbox or a PlayStation, this feature will not be available. And one more interesting thing about the touch screen, the on-screen menu of the screen itself can be controlled with the buttons on the top. However, it also can be controlled with touch input, and that feels kinda strange. I don't think I ever experienced a PC display, the features of which could be controlled with touch input in the OSD menu. But here it is, the first one. And these are the only controls the screen sends back to the PC. I tried connecting keyboards and mice into the Type-C port, but they don't even get powered on. So yeah, no wireless USB for ya. In the operating system, the transmitter is detected as a normal display, and it has several refresh rate options, the highest of which is 120 Hz. So yes, this technology by PeakDo, or PeakDo, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, is capable of sending Full HD image at 120 Hz, which is actually amazing. And the biggest question, does it work, and how good it is at transmitting video signal? This device is a Full HD screen, and the transmitter sends uncompressed Full HD video signal at 60 Hz. That's a lot of bandwidth. And that is why this device is using millimeter waves, since this is the only way to send that much uncompressed data. The problem with millimeter wave is it's a very narrow beam, and the radio waves are so short that they barely can penetrate anything. That means that for this device to work, there has to be a direct line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. That means that if you plug it to the back of your console or to the back of your computer, most probably the screen will not work. To mitigate the problem, PeakDo also sells a cradle that you can put in front of your console or on your computer desk to maintain the direct line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. This stand also has a cooling fan, which is a nice addition since the transmitter device does get a little bit hot. While doing measurements, I registered 50 degrees and over on the transmitter case. So a cooling device is a nice option. And maintaining direct line of sight also means you can only use this device in the same room that your transmitter is. You cannot take this device to another room or another floor or to the bathroom. You have to be in the same room with the transmitter for this device to work. So basically, the only use case is to sit not in front of your computer or in front of your TV, but in the same room on the couch, for example. And while testing this device, I could only use it about 3, maybe 4 meters from the transmitter. So basically the idea is you can leave your desk with this device in hand and sit back on a couch about 3, maybe 4 meters from your computer to continue playing your games. This is a limitation, and for some this may be a downside. However, there are many upsides. First of all, this device sends video signal uncompressed and with zero added latency. That means there is no perceived difference between playing this game on a TV or a monitor connected to your gaming console or gaming PC and on this device wirelessly. I tried to play a game simultaneously on the monitor and on this remote PeakDo device, and I couldn't detect any discrepancies in image. It was instantaneous transmission. Which is not true in the case of PlayStation Portal, for example. PlayStation Portal uses your normal Wi-Fi network to transmit the image, which is not enough to transmit an uncompressed signal. That means that the image on your console has to be first compressed, then sent over the network and decompressed on your PlayStation Portal before you can actually see the image. This adds a lot of latency. This is one thing, and the second thing, PlayStation Portal will overwhelm your home Wi-Fi network. In the case of PeakDo, it doesn't use your Wi-Fi at all, it doesn't interfere with it, it has its own millimeter wave connection, which is very fast. And as I said, as the signal is not compressed, there is no added latency. The screen itself is a good quality IPS panel. The image quality is nice, especially when you remove the protective film and install the supplied tempered glass screen protector. And the last but very important thing is that PeakDo, unlike PlayStation Portal for example, is a standard HDMI device. You can connect it to any HDMI out and use it. And it is also very easy to set up. That means you can use it with any device, even those that do not support remote play in any type of form. You also don't need any online accounts, since this device doesn't need any accounts to be used. So yeah, it's a very interesting device with its own limitations, and it's definitely a niche device, but a very interesting one nonetheless. If you want to get one, you will find the purchase link in the description.
I am the god of YouTube!
Like, subscribe, jingle bells.